I'm looking at this by-election and seeing people vote for UDA, people cheering for the broad-based government, and people spectating that Ruto cannot be defeated, so they have no choice but to re-elect him. It icks me in a certain way. And in fact, it ultimately makes me agree with Plato and Socrates' popular criticism of democracy. Because come to think of this, how is it fair that you, a well-educated, well-informed, and intelligent Kenyan, your well-being and leadership is going to be decided by a majority of citizens who are not informed and not well-educated on making the right governance decision? That your life is going to be decided by a majority of these voters who vote for someone because of a 200 shilling bribe, or cheer and vote based on tribal alignments and embody nothing about proper leadership. That is why Socrates and Plato sees democracy as dangerous. But it is not because these people love tyranny. It is because democracy assumes that everyone is equally capable of making decisions and treats all voters' decisions as equal when they are not. In fact, Socrates asks a very important question. If you are sick, do you sit down to vote on the treatment, or do you directly let the doctor who is competent to decide for you? So an uninformed voter should not have the same voter power as a well-informed citizen. In fact, Plato was not saying that people are stupid. All he was saying is that uninformed people make an informed decision. Plato believes that the fact that democracy allows these uninformed people to vote, it becomes a certain kind of a popularity contest and nothing to do with competency. So this popularity contest creates a certain form of, short-term thinking, conformism, and a certain hard behavior. And that effect can actually be seen in Kenya. We think very short-term about our president and ignore his bloody, brutal past. In the confinement of that short-term thinking, we are enticed by little things such as Talanta Stadium or maybe a short road in Nakuru, but ignoring the long-term damage he has done to our country by the massive and open corruption. In this conformism and hard behavior, these uninformed Kenyans have buried their individual critical thinking, and now all their thinking is based on tribal alignments and not real issues. Look at the current discourse in Kenya. It is about Mount Kenya region, Luo region, if this and that tribe align, who will win, and they forget about the pertinent matters that affects them as citizens. Plato tells us that when politicians realize this, they become some sort of seducers rather than actually informers for the citizen. So they decide to pull off theatrics and provide short, comfortable lies and solutions so that the uninformed voters can forget the root cause of our problems like we are doing here in Kenya. Right now, these uninformed Kenyans are getting comfortable with Ruto, who to me is just a very charismatic clown. And now that if they re-elect him, I, who is very informed, will be bound by their poor decisions. My ideal form of governance must envision a meritocratic society where virtuous and wise men make decisions on behalf of the population. Look at how that has worked for China and how it has transformed that country. So when it comes to democracy, we need a reflection on the complexities of decision making in a very pluralistic society where everyone is not deemed as equal.
The by-elections have officially come to a close, and we now have all the results of the 7 concerned constituencies. And from what IEBC has released, the broad-based government should not be celebrating, and instead they should be very concerned about their performance, particularly in Baringo North and in Malava. And in this video, I'll give you some of the reasons why that's the case. And so with no further ado, let's get after it. So let's start with Kenya Kwanza's performance in Baringo North. Historically, Baringo North has always been a 50-50 battleground, and I'll give you examples. In 1983, Sylvester Mate beat Kamwithi Munyi with just 183 votes. In 2002, JB Muturi beat Muriugi with 266 votes. In 2013, Njagagwa beat JB Muturi with 284 votes, and in 2022, Roku beat Njagagwa with 647 votes, and finally, 2025, Wamudhende has fictitiously defeated Karis with 494 votes. So imagine all the millions of money used in the form of bribes, only to win by 494 votes. That just goes a long way to show that Wamudhende had no numbers bar bribery and voter manipulation. So Baringo North, from where I see it, remains to be a 50-50 battleground constituency. So come 2027, it's not over. A loss of 497 is a very small margin considering the amount of bribery and corruption that took place. And I'll give you more of that in the third video of the day, where actually Wamudende might not be sworn in and might find himself headed to court. But let me not talk about that now. I'll do so in the third video of the day. Now, the second reason why KK should not be celebrating in Baringo North is because their candidate Wamudende comes from a ward called Nthawa, which has 18,000 votes, which actually happens to be the highest. And Karis comes from Muminji ward, which carries only 9,300 votes. So for Karis to lose by 497 votes, that means that Wamudende only managed to garner 53% of the total votes cast in his own ward of Nthiwa. Karis took 47% from him. So again, Karis remains to be a serious threat in Mbeere, and Wamudende needs to know that 2027 will not be like 2025. You see, in 2025, everything stopped for those elections in 7 constituencies. The government had the financial muscle to outspend and overspend the opposition in those 7 by-elections, which is what happened. In Mbeere North, more than 600 million was used. In fact, some are talking of figures around $1 billion. Will Wamudende be able to get that same kind of money in 2027 when the president himself is looking for re-election, when governors are looking for re-election, MPs, MCAs, all those people who are forwarding money to him, will they be available then for that? It becomes tricky. Kazi itakuwa inaendelea 2027 is voter bribery across the country, illegal empowerments across the country. So kila mwanasiasa itakuwa God for us all, every man for himself. Hii kusaidiwa Wamudende amesaidiwa na pesa. This is the first and the last. So the question is, will he be able to redo what he has done in 2027 minus the money? Question mark. Now over to Malava. In Malava, there were 2 challenges. The first is the obvious looting. I mean, how can Panyako win 134 out of 198 polling stations and then he still loses the vote by 1,200? And then Ndakwa only gains momentum when Natembea and Panyako are arrested within the hour and their agents are chased. That is a repeat of what we saw in Tanzania when Suluhu Hassan went to arrest Tundu Lissu, akaenda akashinda kura, akajiapisha, and then they released Tundu Lissu. That is exactly what has happened to Panyako and Natembea. After stealing elections, now they have been released. If you talk to any election observer or agent in Malava, they can tell you it was worse than anything they've seen in the country. Not even Mbeere North can compare to Malava. There was blatant looting, agents were beaten and chased, the candidate was arrested, harassed even the night before his bodyguard alipigwa kisu, and yet that candidate only lost by 1,200 votes. Yet hata ni candidate ambaye ni simp, analia kwa polling station, anatoka pale anaenda kurefute the results even before they have been released. So in Malava, opposition had a weak candidate, there was blatant robbery, and they only lost by 1,200. In Mbeere North, Wamudende comes from the most populous ward, which has double the numbers Karis has in his original ward. And then you factor in all the billions that have been used and the voter bribery, and they only won by 497. Those 2 remain to be battleground states. It is not a lost cause as we approach 2027. Now, at the end of the day, guys, that's just my opinion. Do let me know your own comments in the comment section below, and I'll do the best to read them and to give you a response. So with that, here are today's...
Ruto anapendaje the next president mpaka namfanya hizi changes zote?
Too much ambition breaks a man. But too little of it also doesn't take him anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of greed in between there for me and William Ruto. As a journalist, I've seen the kind of struggle he's going through. He's a micromanager. If you ask me what kind of president he is, he's a micromanager.
Yes.
He doesn't delegate anything. Ruto takes everything by himself. Have you seen any of his ministers speaking about even their own ministries? It's the president speaking about everything.
Yes.
From agriculture to defense, to even sports. He's launching everything and speaking about Harambee Stars. So everybody else around him just, becomes a flower boy or a flower girl. And when you have too much ambition like that, you find yourself with too much in the mouth. You cannot chew. Okay? And I think he's going to have constipation, so to speak, in terms of delivery. I mean, it's good to be ambitious and have all this project running around, from housing, from whatnot. But again, you have a new education system being rolled out, the new health system being rolled out, new university funding model coming up against other interests. And people are wondering whether renovating the House of Power and State House ranks highest in the national interest or a competing interest. And, young people were saying probably doesn't want to leave. Probably doesn't want to leave. Because this thing would have been done over years. This renovation would have been done, face of it would be done perhaps this time. And then the subsequent, renovation could be done by the guys who are coming. If you do everything now, what is the guy coming next going to do?
A politician in Kenya flew in a helicopter to go and help build a class made out of mud. Yes, that happened. Our cabinet secretary Faiti flew in a helicopter to launch a public Wi-Fi. In capsule, one of the candidates who lost the election lured his campaigners and supporters to his home and thoroughly caned them. This photo overlaid here are allegedly politicians launching a bridge in their village. In Nigeria, people celebrate as if they've gotten out of a hellhole when they go to foreign countries and leave their ancestral home. So this really begs the question, do you still think that is neocolonization that is the main reason why Africans are poor? Or are our problems self-inflicted? Because it seems to me that they are self-inflicted actually. But I want to know what you think.
Just to make it clear, guys, me, I'm not pro Gashagwa, I'm not pro DCP, I'm not pro Karis. I just thought that we're all tired of Ruto. We are all tired of Kasongo. We were all chanting one term. See what? Hey? Mumbere ni nani? Genz ni nani? Hey, mazini, it's like we're in this. Peke yetu. Genz mlikuwa wapi? Mnafikiria kura ziko TikTok? Kura ziko kwa streets? If you don't vote, change itatoka wapi? Watu wa mbere, I thought mulisema mtakula pesa alafu kwa ballot mjue mpangwi. Kumbe mlishapangwa na madharo na spinach. Akimsifanye nilie tena. Siamini.
Ati black chocolate ni fine melanin bana kutoka nikapate. Kanapenda kenye mi wanapenda so kanapenda toto chupa na haga nono.
Madam na kudai umedunga mini na unapenda mangwai. Una dance fit unawacha nikismile ama niko high jua life nice.
Kono moja mbele ngine yende rembe baila